any one of the three of us has any particular interest in our band becoming successful because we've sexualized you.
What if I just wore like a sexy leotard for every show?
What if I wore a sexy leotard?
Ooh,
See?
that could be fun.
That's a conversation.
Yeah. Those pants, those sparkle pants, those sparkle pants that
the Halloween.
show everything.
The leggings, the American Eagle, American Apparel leggings.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be okay with that because that's just sort of bucking the trend.
Level 3 of My Little Underground is underway. I'm Peter A. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, and you can check it out on my site, peteraradio.us. My guest today, trio. I think trio sounds better. I'm coining that. Watch out for that. Royal They is here. Their new album, Foreign Being, is out right now, and I was listening to it on the way here, and it sounds fantastic. It's a jolt of energy that we need. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. You guys have been on my radar for quite some time.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I heard the new record. It's a lot of fun. It has the energy that I've been wanting from New York bands. And there's a lot of great New York bands that have a lot of energy, and that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself. And I want to start with the recent Rizzo's senior prom. Yeah. Right, and I saw some pictures on Facebook, and I saw the prom get up. Did you guys actually go to your proms? Was there a certain nostalgic feeling to this show that you guys wanted to fulfill?
I all of us went to our respective senior proms, right? I think this one was way more gratifying for what I imagine are obvious reasons, because prom for me at least was just kind of like if my girlfriend at the time hadn't wanted to go, I wouldn't have had any particular interest in going, aside from like the peer pressure of, well, you didn't go to prom. But this one was a huge group of friends, and just nothing but good times, and an excuse to look really fucking spectacular. I was
That's
okay with
it.
that. Yeah.
We looked so fancy pants. It was very exciting.
I wanted to play a fancy pants show.
I have
so
too.
I'm glad we got to do that.
It was actually kind of funny because two of my very close friends who I grew up with happened to be at that show. And they both were also at my senior prom together. We were all at prom together. It was the same grade. So two people I actually went to prom with in the limo with me. They the whole night was all of us. So and we all just danced. It was my school's prom was actually pretty fun because it was kind of just like a school dance, but you didn't have dates, because in my town it's the same kids from kindergarten through 12th grade, so you kind of really didn't date people from school. It was kind of, I don't know, it was like everyone's friends, and so you would just bring your friends and everyone would just party dance. So it was really fun. Though my friend who came reminded me of the fact that her boob popped out of her dress while we were dancing. I don't recall it, honestly, but she did, and I think that prom maybe brought that. Rizzo's prom brought that back for her.
So was Rizzo's prom better or worse for her?
I don't know. I have to ask her.
Yeah. Did you guys perform in your formal attire? Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
You didn't sweat it out and nothing like that?
Oh, it was,
No.
I mean, I'm glad we got to do it. I wouldn't do it on the reg at all.
No.
It was extraordinarily sweaty.
The dress that I was wearing, it has boning, which for anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's on your rib cage. It actually used to be whale bones. They don't do that anymore, but it was it's a corset, kind of like a corset for the top half, and it gives structure to a dress and it makes it look nice, but it also means that it digs into your insides. So I'm sitting there being I can breathe, but not deeply, and is this going to make me pass out during our set? It ended up being fine, but I did have a moment to think about it. I was I did have an outfit to change into as well, so I was prepared, but
Thankfully.
It was a thought.
You guys have gotten the post-punk label. Now, I saw you guys share your opinions of that. Do you think that's accurate?
I don't know post-punk. I don't know what post-punk is. I honestly, the thing that's actually kind of funny, I think to some degree about all three of us, but I know particularly for me, and I think Daryl too, is that we're not the biggest audiophiles in the world. I like the music that I like, and I'll find albums that I like and bands that I like, and I'll really invest in really understanding their music. But I'm not like, there are all these times where people are like, oh my god, you sound just like this band or Thin Lizzy, or you sound like this people or these people, and I'm like, I've maybe heard of them, but I've never heard any of their music. Like, I don't. Sorry.
I'm ashamed of how often that happens.
Yeah, it happens all the time, and so when they say post punk, I'm like, I don't know what post punk is.
I have a rough understanding of it, and I guess it's I don't know how to categorize our music to people. I get the question all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how to categorize our music to people, mainly because I think we take our influences from a wide variety of different genres, and it really, like, depending on the song of ours that you're pointing to, I feel like it could be described completely differently. That being said, I think just in terms of the energy and the intensity of a lot of our live performances and such, I can see where people would gravitate towards that, because we're not really a punk band in any traditional sense, but we are kind of.
Plus the instrumentation. I mean, it's all stripped down. You know, we're working with very little, and oftentimes at a lot of these venues, half of the stuff works. So we're basically, we resort to just like a floor tom, just like completely like breaks on you. So okay, you're just using bass and snare or something, you know. So we're very minimal as far as gear is concerned, and we don't have effects, we don't do electronics. Like, it's a lot of things that maybe one would associate with punk, just kind of like stripped down, and just guitars like blasting and drums, kind of like the energy thing, I think is probably the biggest thing. But
I feel like I think of that being more garagey than punk.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
They go hand in hand.
Yeah, they
to
do.
me,
Yeah.
garage is another. It's almost like a synonym for punk. Because think about what garage means. You're in your garage. It's bare bones. It's DIY, and that's what punk is. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. And
Yeah.
and our record label, King Pizza Records, is, I think, largely considered a garage rock label.
Yeah.
I don't describe us that way as readily, just because there are a lot of aesthetic things about garage rock that we don't really do. It's not as much like, you know, the sort of we're tend not to be as lo-fi and not as much of the sort of like surfy reverb.
We're somewhere awkwardly straddling a bunch of different genres.
That's a perfect way.
Yeah.
Awkwardly straddling.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
A lot of songs on the new record that just kind of they go one way, then just swerve another way. It's very awkward in the, you know, the best way possible. You know, from what I understand from post punk, you know, usually just comes from like what bands that you hear, like Killing Joke. You know, Joy Division to a degree.
Sure.
Preoccupations, a more recent example.
Love those guys.
Yeah,
That's a band I've heard of.
Television's post punk.
Yeah,
I would. I would put them in.
But I just don't see television as sounding like.
The thing is, television, I think, we're contemporaries of the actual punk rock movement, and we're considered by all means a punk band. But when you listen to television, they've got these 10-minute like opus songs that are as antithetical to my understanding of conventional punk as anything else. Like as antithetical as the Grateful Dead. But they're great, and to think that punk is that broadly defined, I guess, makes, on the one hand, is awesome. On the other hand, makes it a lot less useful as a description.
And I think that's what makes a good music.
Fair enough.
Things that make you think, well, it should be this, but it can be that. But it makes you scratch your head.
Yeah.
That's, to me, just great music right there. That makes you think that what it could be, where it came from. You know, it makes you think. It makes you just wander down the journey of sonically.
Yeah,
of the band,
absolutely.
If that sounds,
I totally
if that's
appreciate
appropriate.
that.
But I want to talk about specifically CNT. You know, the intro song we've been, talking about earlier. You know.
Yeah.
But I want to. The one lyric that really stuck out to me, that's just like, huh, was but that you fucked the world, but you did not fuck me. Now, what did you mean by that? Or am I just reading too deep into that?
So it's close. It's not exact. it's I know you'll try to fuck the world, but you will not fuck
No, that
me.
depends.
Oh.
That depends
Right?
on part of the song that you're talking about.
It depends on
It's-
part of
it's
the song. 'Cause
slightly
that's the
differently
end,
phrased
and
in
then
I think this was
the
the
earlier
beginning.
part. Oh, the beginning.
yeah. It's the
what is-
part. It's the part right before the. Yeah. It's.
What is it?
Oh my God, Michelle.
I'm so
It's-
bad at remembering lyrics.
It's where there is nothing left of you to
You
teach,
but that you
fuck
fuck
Yeah.
the world,
but
but
you will not fuck.
You will not. Yeah.
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 You sing the
Okay.
song all the time, you know.
I don't have an answer to why I don't
we're
remember
playing
lyrics.
that one tonight.
Yeah.
I know we're not.
Skip
We
over
do
that.
kind of. So for that, we I think we were all having a really hard time dealing with politics in 2016. It was bad time, and then 2017 wasn't getting any better, and so we were on. Daryl had mostly come up with the lyrics, the ideas of the lyrics. We'd gotten started on it, and we were on tour. I'm trying to finish lyrics for some of the songs for the record, and we were in DC playing.
Oh boy.
Oh, what was that venue?
Smith Public Trust.
Yeah, Smith Public Trust, and we got there early, so we kind of just sat on a bench as it was like lightly starting to drizzle, and we were like trying to come up with more of the lyrics. Now I'm pretty sure that I'm the one who decided on the
F-bomb.
fuck the world, lyric.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was coming from, like, this, it's very much an anti-Trump song.
Yeah, I mean, I think the place that it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject,
Yeah,
but I'll just say that the place that it came from was just the incredible sense of frustration and fury that in a world that is as progressive as we've understood it to be, that something like this can happen. That a guy this bigoted and misogynistic and hateful and backwards can win. And I think certainly where I originated this idea was just with a lot of the sentiments that Michelle was expressing to me around that time. It was like, we need to put this into a song. We need to put this into something that we can rally around, that will empower us in a way that makes us feel like we still have something to fight for.
Because, we all felt I remember feeling very powerless with all of that. And it was just this idea that even if everything else goes to hell, like, we can still stand up for ourselves.
Yeah. That's kind of where that came from.
I went to a concert after the election. That's what helped me. I mean, I was pretty miserable that Wednesday morning. But what did I do? I went to the Paramount and saw Death from Above and blew my mind away.
Nice.
And the one thing that was interesting, the drummer Sebastian, he was like, "Yeah, you guys had a rough day." So he said something along the lines of that. It's rough out there, I know, but it was. You kind of have to just kind of keep going.
Yeah.
You can't just just drown.
No.
And look at Facebook or look at all the articles about, you can't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
You'll kill yourself.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know.
It's funny
terrible.
you mentioned Facebook, because that's what Sludge Fucker's about.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sludge Fucker
great.
is about what we were jokingly calling the rage machine for a while. Because, you go on Facebook, you see an article that somebody posted about something horrific that, makes you so furious, and then you're just like, nah!
You see another thing that makes you furious. Then you see another article
Yeah.
that also makes you furious. I was spiraling last night,
Yeah.
too. I was, looking at all the stuff about the school shooting.
Yeah.
And it was so late at night, I'm like, okay, what's going on? Let me see this. And I saw another one, and I had to stop.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
then you're not
Stop.
going to be able to sleep. Yeah.
Nope.
That's exactly
Yeah.
it. And that's and
At some point, you have to stop yourself, because it's...
the other thing about that is that whole rage machine is it's a contrivance. It is driven by the fact that Facebook pushes into the forefront things that most people are likely to click on. The things that people are most likely to click on are the things that are the most incendiary, which means that the extremes of either side of the argument are the ones that people are seeing, and all the measured, more pragmatic conversations are getting pushed to the bottom. You never see any of it. And that is what's perpetuating the polarization that's contributing to how shitty our politics are right now.
They're so shitty.
the politics are algorithmic.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They're algorithmically driven to just create a chasm between us.
Because think about it, when you go to Amazon and you search for something, right, and you're signed on to whatever thing, whatever else you Google, the thing that you searched for before it comes up, or things similar. Yeah. So it kind of works that way with the internet news cycle. Yeah, at least I think that way.
No, absolutely. I mean, I have friends who work in that's like in internet advertising, and who've talked to me about the mechanisms they use to figure out who you are and what you like, and put you into a bunch of different categories that they can use to target you.
Yes.
And they're doing that all the time with everything.
With YouTube too.
Yeah,
I've seen it happen.
It's across websites. It doesn't matter what website you're on. Like,
well, I
they
think
have
it's
ways
because
of doing
so many of them are all owned by Google at this point.
Well, it's not even just that. I think they're doing it in ways that are completely agnostic to whose website you're on.
It's what you're searching for. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And it's spooky. I mean,
it's real creepy.
It just my impression of it is that I don't consider myself a Luddite. I work in computer like in technology, but we are messing with something that we don't understand the magnitude of. I think that's that much is clear.
And that's what Black Mirror
is
all
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's healthy to have a bit of nervousness around that kind of stuff.
So,
Black
King
Mirror
Pizza.
scares me.
Yes.
Let's talk about King Pizza.
Yes,
so
we
how
love
did
King
you
Pizza.
how did you guys get involved with them? Because not a lot of bands that I meet, some are quote unquote signed, and some are just kind of do things on their own. So most acts that I meet, I want to understand how they get involved with certain labels, be it indie or just bigger.
Totally.
So the way that our trajectory kind of worked was that we started playing, and our second show we ended up meeting some people in Best Behavior because we played with them, and they liked it, and we ended up being buddies, and I think. And then eventually because of that, we got to know some other people, and eventually it brought us to seeing, to knowing the Rizzos and the Mad Doctors, and we'd seen them and we'd played with them a couple times, and we'd already recorded our album with John Meredith at Mollusk Studios. He's amazing. And we were thinking about shopping it around, and I guess we reached out to a couple labels. We did have a meeting with another label where we weren't really super enthused, but during that period we were like trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we bring this up to King Pizza? Because we'd like to be on King Pizza for the first, at least for the first album. Like we didn't know where we were going with this, but we like them. Be cool.
At that point, Greg Hansen, who's kind of the King Pizza, the big cheese, he had seen us a few times. We'd played a show at Don Pedro that he booked, so he'd become sort of a friend of ours.
Yeah, but we weren't really like in yet. Like I still felt like I like these people are also cool. I just hope that they like us.
Exactly. It was just what was so cool about it was that it was King Pizza immediately before we had even had any conversations with Greg about our record. We were already just enamored with not only how awesome of a group of musicians they were, but how awesome of a group of people they were. They're this big family and this big community of really supportive people.
To clarify, King Pizza is a record label, but it's also much more than that. It's a community of artists, including visual artists and people who have lots of different skills that they bring to the table. So we really were meeting a lot of these people, and then we were at
Palisades,
but what was the? It was the Fuzzathon. They did a big show, like a whole day thing, and
like Pizza Fest.
No, this was a different one. This was called. They did it once.
Yeah,
it was called Fuzzathon.
It was kind of a one day festival where Pizza Fest is a big 3-day thing.
Yeah,
it was one day festival,
and it was at
Palisades.
And we were there, and Greg mentioned that he wanted to talk to me and Daryl, but we were both like there at different times, and then Daryl came back, and we finally were all there, and Greg was like, "Oh wait, was Rick there too?"
I don't think so.
No, he wasn't.
So we were not all there. That's what I'm saying.
No, I meant the 3 people that he had wanted to talk to.
Okay.
Like me, you, and Greg. Like he had been waiting for one of us to get back for like a while.
Okay.
First you were there and I wasn't there. Then I was there and you weren't there. And then finally we were both there.
And Rick was never there.
Rick was never there.
Okay. So.
And well, that's not what I meant. You're willfully misconstruing what I meant.
Yeah, no, I just want to acknowledge that Rick is a part of the band. And
Yes.
He's been a part of the band
Yes.
since the beginning.
Right,
You know, and
but
he's still
this
here.
is-
He's still,
but we're-
he's still
How's everybody?
sitting here.
I'm just talking about this one evening. You're being such a jerk. So the 2 out of the 3 people
Yes,
in the
thank you.
band
Yeah.
who were at this show happened to finally both be there at the same time. And so Greg was like, would it like be okay if, I mean, maybe he's like, no pressure. He's like, it's no pressure. It's no pressure, but like it'd be cool if we could release your record. And we were like, what? He wants to release our record? What is this? We were like I'm pretty sure we immediately like called Rick and we're like, ah!
Because for bands, it's like people care about our music now.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So you kind of just fall out of your seat for a
Yeah,
second.
that
Yeah.
was definitely that's a reaction that we've had since it began, and that we continue to have. That it's just amazing that people really care about our music as much as they do. I hope we never get comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because I think that would have lousy implications.
That's an unwanted complacency.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't
Yeah.
ever want to get comfy with people
Yeah.
caring what you do, because then you stop feeling like you need to do anything at all. Like you can just shit out a record and people are gonna eat it up.
Ugh,
That's
really.
pretty. Anyway, yeah. So
Appropriate. Yes.
Appropriate, but
Yeah.
very
Shitty
specific
thing.
visual.
Yeah, no, I didn't need that this early.
Yeah, it's like Midge.
Well, yeah, we don't need to get into that. Her family just got a puppy, and the puppy has some
There you
bad
go.
inclinations.
Yes.
But anyway,
Your record is on cassette.
Yes.
Now, right?
Correct.
So do you guys look at it, tapes in general, as sort of a novelty, or do you find some sort of value in still listening and consuming cassettes?
that's a great question. We get some version of that all the time. I think it's a lot of people that who find out that we're putting out cassettes, who are not sort of in the realm of independent music and are privy to how much more popular they are now. I tend to side gaze at it and like, why are you putting out a cassette? Do you not take yourself seriously?
I was the same. Yeah, I had the same thought process.
Yeah.
Well, the sort of the reality of the circumstances being what they are, almost no one is consuming music, at least in the great majority of music, in any form other than digitally. That is to say, almost everyone is listening to most of their music either streaming or via downloads. And that being the case, physical distribution is kind of meaningless, and the medium through which you do that has become a lot less relevant, at least in terms of actually listening. So our perspective on it, and I think there are a fair number of people who share this, is that CDs at this point have become passé, because it's exactly the same thing that you would get if you were downloading it. And in that respect, most people are just going to rip the CD, put it on their phones, and then throw the CD in a closet, if not throw it away entirely. At which point the physical thing becomes pointless. Alternatively, you have as options vinyl, which is awesome for audiophiles and really still the best way to listen to a lot of music, and is also ridiculously expensive and really only appeals to people who are audiophiles. And then you have tapes, and tapes are cheap. They have like a fun, nostalgic quality to them. You can produce them really quickly, and it fulfills the purpose of giving people a physical thing that they can remember you by. Like when you're playing a show in a band, you see a band that you like, and you want to support them. You want to have something you can take home to not only remember, not only like have their music, but to remember them by. It's nice to have something physical to take home rather than like, well, here's a download code on a piece of paper. And for that matter, that actually feels like it's worth like paying $5 for. And
And
tapes,
you can fit it in your pocket.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Tapes have the advantage of being pocket-sized, and for the record, every tape that we sell comes with a download code. Like,
Yeah.
we're not total Luddites about it. But
You've now used Luddites twice.
thank you for keeping track.
What's a
count.
Luddite?
A Luddite is someone who's anti-technology or sort of like technological advancement and just kind of like prefers to
Bury their head in the sand.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
type of thing. But yeah, that being said, her Camry, Michelle's Toyota Camry, does still have a tape deck in it, and we do listen to a lot of our friends' bands on tape, especially on tour.
It's
It is a
grand.
lot of fun. And there's a different quality to it. I mean, you have to fast forward the damn thing. You don't get to just skip to tracks and such. Like you have to listen
and you
to the
just
entire
listen
thing
to
all the
the
way through.
album, and it's like you're not even. I don't know. It's a very different experience. I've been listening to albums again.
Yeah.
To be fair, I kind of always listen to albums, but it's like I'm listening to more albums because I like pop it in the car and I'm just driving.
And that I definitely appreciate, especially with our own records. I think having the continuity of one song to the next, and hearing the entire thing start to finish. It's a thing people don't do as often anymore.
Yeah.
And it's gratifying to know that people are experiencing our music that way and to experience other people's music that way.
And one thing I've noticed with, analog music, especially cassettes, I was listening to Tragic Kingdom on the Don't Doubt record, right?
Nice.
And the songs kind of just flow.
Yeah.
When you listen
Yeah.
to on tape, it just kind of goes together. It doesn't when you listen to it digitally, it cuts.
Right.
Same with the
Yeah.
Preoccupations album.
Yeah.
There's certain songs just kind of just flow together
Yeah.
on tape. When you listen to it digitally, it just kind of just cuts.
Yes.
So, Say Less, and I love this song. It's extremely repetitive, almost, it feels like purposely repetitive. You repeat Say Less so much. And was there like a certain point you were trying to get across, or I'm just looking too deep into this?
No, not at all. I mean, it's this is Michelle's song largely. I think I mean, I'll let you speak to it. I think it was meant to sort of cultivate this like almost neurotic sense of like obsessive, self-conscious anxiety in social situations.
Yeah.
And so that gets it across.
Yeah, I think Daryl and I both have had the experience of being too verbose when we were kids, and in high school and
When we were
stuff.
kids.
And we've gotten
You mean like
better.
talkative? Like extremely talkative? Is that what you mean?
Better.
Yeah.
But we
If
just
you hadn't noticed.
we just talk a lot, and it's to the point where like I think when I was a kid, at least, it was to the point where I was a little tone deaf, and I didn't realize that I was just talking so much more than everybody else, and I have tried to be more cognizant of it as an adult, but it was kind of hearkening back to what it feels like. And also it kind of was spurred on by a story that Daryl had of like in college, some people like telling him to stop talking. And how it just like is like, and it's just like that kind of feeling of like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I do that? Why did I just keep talking?
Well,
Right.
yeah, like being,
Yeah.
a lot of people talk a lot when they're nervous. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you just feel you use your response to a sort of awkward or social situation is to just talk more to fill the space to make it feel less
Fill the
awkward.
words. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of
Rick doesn't have this problem.
Hi again.
It's like he thinks before he says something. Unlike
does.
myself, I just kind of just go. You know what I mean? And it bites me in the ass.
Yeah.
Also,
He's
Rick's
the-
really good at telling stories. So when he's gonna talk a long time, he's telling like an engaging story, and everyone's like, "Yeah, what's next? What happened next?" But he doesn't just.
He
Like,
should be the one doing the
ramble.
podcast
Yeah,
instead of
he
me.
doesn't
You know
just-
what I
He
mean?
doesn't just prattle on the way that Daryl and I do.
So I want to talk about your songwriting process, and you guys
Yeah.
have said it's like a cat fight and it's democratic. So what do you guys mean by that? Elaborate more.
I want Rick to answer this question.
Yeah.
Come on,
right?
Rick, the storyteller. Let's go.
Oh man, so let me take you back into the rehearsal studio for this one. Nah, honestly,
Don't go too deep.
no,
you know?
no, I'm not gonna. Usually, as the lyricist and kind of melodic kind of foundation, either Daryl or Michelle kind of comes to the band with an idea. I usually my role as a drummer is to kind of taken what they've come to the table with and either try and enhance it or politely suggest other options.
Politely suggest.
Because, look,
Yes.
as a drummer, and I've been drumming for a long time, and I've played with a lot of different people. It's a delicate situation, you know. If you're a drummer as a for hire gig, you don't really have much say in anything. You know, you're just there, show up, people tell you what to do, you do it, you get paid, great, everything's fine. When you're in a band setting and it is a little more, democratic, you have to take everything into consideration, and you can't just shit on people for everything that they come up with, because that's going to bring the whole project down. You know, at the same time, you have to be uplifting, but also like methodical with what you bring to the table, because I'm guilty of accepting too many ideas at times, because I get really excited about a project and somebody be like, why don't we go here? It's like, yeah, let's try and make that work. It's like, well, how about this? Sure, let's add that too. And then it just becomes a whole just clusterfuck of ideas, and it doesn't really have much direction. So I really appreciate people who are firm and they have a kind of sense of. So anyway, back to the whole rehearsal. Daryl comes up with a lot of guitar riffs he's a little more like technical, and he kind of brings a lot of interesting ideas to the table. Michelle kind of has that more, I don't know, she's a little more spaced out, like as far as her ideas, like melodically and rhythmically. So she'll be like, that sounds like you're trying too hard, you know? So it's like, how about we do something more like this? And she'll sing a melodic line, and Daryl he'll either say, I don't like that, which is great for me, because I get to sit there and watch them fight. And sometimes it gets out of hand, and sometimes I have to say, hey, shut the fuck up, both of you, because I can't take it anymore. Okay, look at yourselves. But in other times, it's great to see that kind of that relationship grow. You know, somebody's accepting somebody else's idea. We work on it together, and it becomes a real thing. You know,
and that's the creative process.
Yeah, it becomes something that everyone's a part of at that point. Everyone loves, and as kind of our basic rule of thumb, we don't play anything that we all don't love. You know, if we're really not feeling it, we'll either shelf it for a while. I mean, there are ideas that we've had since the beginning that we sometimes come back to. Some of them we haven't touched ever again. But if we don't like it, then we're not going to play it or perform it, because and also going back to the conversation we had about dressing up, or just image, it's like if we're not liking something on stage, we're not totally ourselves, and it's going to come through regardless of all the bullshit that happens with technical problems, or anything with gear, or just dealing with shitty sound people, or whatever it is. At the most basic level, we're happy with the music, we're confident in what we can play, and we love playing it together.
So you guys essentially, you fight over the important stuff, and you just kind of ignore the bullshit. You know what I mean?
We try as
we
best
go
we
for,
can
yeah.
to kind of weed out things and kind of we basically keep each other in check.
Yeah.
Right? It's like if we come to the table and we're like, it's too much, or you just you don't have a great feeling about it, we try and suggest things to remedy that, because if you're just if you're shitting all over somebody for everything, it doesn't get anybody anywhere, and it builds resentment and all these weird feelings that you just don't need to be in a rehearsal space, which happen all the time in a lot of bands.
And I do think that, I think that one of the things is that if we bring it, if I bring an idea and we try playing it, but it's just not working, I think we all kind of recognize if something isn't really gelling right. So even if it was our idea and we kind of were a little more attached to it, it's a little bit easier to let go once we've tried it with the band and be like, okay, I maybe need to rework this and bring it back.
Right.
So like a good example of that is actually Sludgefucker. Daryl had this idea for this song and I didn't like it.
It was perfect. But you didn't like it.
It was perfect. I ruined everything.
This is the making of a good B-sides compilation album.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so then he reworked it like thoroughly, and months later, we hadn't talked about the song again for a long time, and then months later he brings this song to me, and I loved it, and I was like, what is this? And he's like, oh, did you not realize it's the same song as that one? I was like, oh, you really changed it. So
That's perfect.
yeah, so it's like I like to say that it's like an editing process. Like one of us will bring a song idea, and then like the three of us will work together to kind of edit it and maybe flesh it out, add some more pieces to it. There were a lot of times where I've brought a song and then like you guys together came up with like another little extra bit part that like to me makes the song. Like for Flying Naked on the new record, you guys decided like on the extra little bit part of like the quiet bit, say it slow.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think I'm not sure how the adage goes, but it's something like the actual artistic, the art is in the editing, if you will. And I think to that effect, like we all play, we all really reinforce each other's strengths, and we check each other's weaknesses. I know for my part, I have a tendency to get really carried away with things. Michelle has a good tendency to rein me in on that.
And Rick kind of calms you guys down.
Yes,
Yeah.
Rick
He
is
puts the
Rick
water
is,
on the fire.
Rick is the diplomat. He's the one who kind of makes sure that the band doesn't explode, and he's got an amazing degree of tolerance for our bullshit.
Yeah.
And you need that.
Yeah, do we?
You guys kind of like fit together personality-wise.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And I kind of respect that.
Very
And
fortunate.
The one thing that I've noticed, just going through, a lot of things that, a lot of the recent press of your record, there's been a lot of it.
Yeah.
And, from Prostrat, Stereo Gun, BTR Today, Audio Femme, Alt Citizen, and tons more. And at the same time, I'm getting a lot of rock is dead conversations, and I just don't understand that now. I can understand that from a pop culture standpoint, but outside of that, I don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is an interesting question
Because so many people care about what you're doing.
Yeah. And I'll admit I find it I find it similarly sort of well, it's a complicated conversation. On the one hand, I don't ever see a band like us becoming as popular as Nirvana was.
Of course.
Not in this day and age.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that anyway.
Yeah.
On the one hand, but I acknowledge that like popular music has moved on to different genres.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think the
And it kind of ebbs and flows.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I think there's any number of possibilities that it will swing back in the direction of more of rock oriented or guitar driven music.
Yeah.
But I don't think that means that rock music isn't still relevant. It's still a platform in the same way that all manner of other genres of music that have been around for a long time are still relevant. I think folk music is still relevant in a lot of ways. I think jazz has its own degree of relevance, but
But it's not within the pop culture.
no, that's
anymore,
I
the
suppose,
same
yeah.
way.
I mean, and that's fine. I think
Yeah.
people are still going to gravitate towards it for certain reasons, and I think rock music, for one thing, has always been about like a ferocious amount of really compelling energy, and about like feeling self-empowered and making a statement about who you are and what you believe.
And in the most simplest point, at least from what I'm hearing from a lot of contemporary rock acts, it's very catchy. You know what I mean? Like that's something that's so weird to me that when I hear Ty Segall, I'm like, this is catchy stuff. Like he's prolific, but like I don't understand why commercial stations don't see that, which is weird.
Yeah.
I actually have an interesting theory about current pop music, and I think that current pop music it's kind of the same way that processed food is. Where
It's fast food in and out.
Exactly, it's like fast food. So it's like they have calibrated like the salt and the fat content and the sugar, like everything that you want. That's just firing everything but they don't have, but it's not really like songs anymore.
There's no nutrition or
yeah, there's no substance or content to it. It's about like
no, it's just
flashy,
that. It's just content.
Like loud, like like oh, like this thing's exciting, this thing, because like everybody's felt that, like there's some like dubstep stuff that comes in and like you feel it and you're like, oh my god, I feel this, like like revving up or something, or like and that's kind of what's taken over contemporary pop music. And you'll see like even artists who 15 years ago, 20 years ago were making more traditionally songs are now like everything is moving over towards that. So like like Justin Timberlake is making like dance like electronic dance music, so like I feel like it's moving all in that direction. It's all like club music.
A lot of things are censored in the club to bring people out to the party, and it's such a small. It's it's a part. I think it's allowed to exist, but there's so much more outside of that club bubble.
Agreed.
And I guess the other point to make is that maybe part of the reason we have, maybe I don't actually think that rock is dead. I think it's that because of the ease of access to equipment to make recordings, to platforms to put it out there, you have many more bands out there making music. And I think because of that, because there's so many, and so many of them are making great music, that it kind of spreads the wealth type of thing instead of, like you're not, like, I think I remember listening to this interview with The Who on one of like the late
was it just
shows.
Pete Townsend or
I don't remember who. I think there were two of them. I don't remember which two it was because I'm terrible. But but I remember one of them was saying, and this is maybe like 7 years ago, and they're saying how they don't think that that when they were coming up, there really weren't that many bands out there doing stuff and really putting their music out there, and there were maybe 6 or 7 bands that were big, and they became one of them. And they said, it's amazing how much great rock music is being made now. And that they actually said if they were having to come out in this type of a field, there's no way that they would have become big the way that they did. And I kind of have to think that that's part of it, because like, you just see so many more musicians who are really in this realm of rock and indie and all of this and putting out music, and you can have really great music, but you're there's so many bands and so many different bands that people love that you're not gonna, I guess, become as big.
Yeah, I suppose.
I guess certain people can just pick out of a certain hat, if you will. You know what I mean? Like there's gonna be certain like content creators and radio personalities, podcasters, or whatever that would pick. Look what I found. Right. Here, check this out. You don't like this? Well, check this one out. And some other person from, across the country can say, hey, look what I found over here. Right. Yes, it's over congested, but it's up to some people to pick out the good, wash out the bad. It's all subjective, but I think that's what's happening now.
Yeah, there's a lot of well, I mean, just to Michelle's point about how unbelievably saturated we are now with arguably very good rock music, it's hard to know where to start.
Yeah.
Bingo.
And so people do rely on content creators or curators to content curators rather to figure out what to listen to. And you combine that with how short people's attention spans are with music streaming and just music being consumed digitally now, how easy it is to just move on to something anytime you hear a song you don't like.
Yeah, like you were talking about this, I think, the other day, maybe, about how, when you paid, like, when we were kids, when we were even, like, in middle school, you'd go to a Sam Goody and pay $20 for the new CD you wanted. And when you bought that CD, you can bet your sweet ass that you were going to listen to it multiple times, even if you didn't like it the first time, even if there were parts of it you're like, oh, I don't know that I really like this. You'd listen to it a few times because you paid $20 damn for that CD. So you're going to listen to it at least a few times, and you'll find the parts of it that you like and you really appreciate it. Whereas, like, now people are like, I don't like this one, skip. I don't like this one, skip.
Yeah, there's not the same incentive to be invested in a record.
Yeah.
Or in a band.
Unless you're a real like audiophile.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You have to be like and I think even those of it, like I feel like I'm guilty of it. I consider myself an appreciator of music, and yet even I find my attention span being really shortened nowadays. I think it's kind of just affected us.
I even wonder sometimes with songs that we play that are maybe less like immediately exciting. Like Flying Naked, which is a slow burn. It starts out really quiet and ethereal and kind of like creepy, and it just kind of builds. But the build doesn't really happen till like 2/3 of the way through the song. So it's I wondered. I remember sitting there when we were in the studio thinking, are people just gonna skip this one? They're gonna hear it and be like, oh, it's not loud punk music. Skip.
Right.
And I immediately put it out of my head because I said, who cares? We're making music we want to make, and that it doesn't matter if people are going to skip it, and people who really care about what we're doing and want the album are going to listen.
Right. Yes.
And you guys are you guys going on tour? Or you just came back from tour?
No. We are, well, interestingly enough, Michelle is currently in her first year in medical school at Robert Wood Johnson, which is awesome, and also intense.
Yeah.
In a variety of ways. But unsurprisingly, that means that we can't really just peel away for 3 weeks at a time and hit the road, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But she will have some time off this summer. So
Bingo.
we're planning a 3-week tour, June, July, thereabouts.
Yeah. We are also playing Mac Rock in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
That's right.
On April 7th.
Yeah.
So
we're decking out
we're
for the
gonna
weekend for that.
gonna deck out for the weekend. Everybody in med school thinks I'm crazy.
They
Awesome.
are wrong, but whatever.
Thank you guys for coming on the show today. It's so much fun.
dude.
You guys, I mean, we can do a whole nother one. You know what I mean? Because I was really trying to pick certain things to talk about because I kind of, going into this, I'm like, okay, you guys can talk a lot about certain specific things. You know what I mean? So we could do a whole nother hour and a half thing if you guys want to.
I'm sure we could.
Yeah, it would be so much fun. And yes, this is level 3 of my little underground. I'm Peter A, and you can check out this whole thing on iTunes and on my website, peteraradio.us. And I also have a nice little write-up on certain bands you should look out for in 2018 on my site. And of course, the Royal They are one of those bands. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Peter A Radio. See you guys later.